Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, agents. I'm Monty Carl, and welcome back to another fun build day. And today we are looking at building a Tanktician, which is currently what everybody is running in the DarkZone now. You've seen it, you've been killed by it, you've tried to kill somebody who's running it and just couldn't because they have so much dang armor and toughness, it's ridiculous, and then they sticky bomb you and you die. So why not you? Why don't you go and get it? Well, let me help you do that. This is the Meta Tanktician Build Masterclass. Let's get going. Alright agents, if you did not see my previous build where we focused on the tank class and just the tank class, you will need to go back and have a look at that video to fully understand where we are going to go from here, because we were building on that video in this video here. The basics are that if you just want a tank class and some DPS, go watch that video. If you want to add some skill power, this is the video to do it, but you're going to need to go ahead and review that first one because we go over some very basics and formulas and stuff like that. This one's going to be less math, more about me telling you how to kind of accomplish this and what I did to do it. The video here is for those who are looking to build the same type of build everyone else is running in the DarkZone, except for those who are running the Reclaimer and absolutely wrecking people out there, because that is going to end up being the new meta for the DarkZone, is the Reclaimer package where you're running 4 people and just absolutely destroying people with explosive bullets and incendiary fire and healing. So let's start, and the basics are as simple as getting your toughness as high as possible like we showed you in the first video, starting with the 75% damage mitigation given by your armor, and then figuring out how you can build down from there and add additional skill power and a small amount of DPS to your agent's wheelhouse. Now if you can't hit that armor level, you will have an issue with this build. So I would go ahead and suggest that you look at your armor first, make sure you can get it 75% if you are 240 or 268. If you're lower than that, I would aim for like 50%, 65%, somewhere around there. This build I'm showing you, I'm running 268 gear, but you can modify this to any of your gear that you want, but you will end up being left with less armor if you have less gear score. I would suggest hitting 75% armor at 240 to 268 and 50 to 60 if you are any lower. Now we'll quickly brush over what you need for armor on your vest and knee pads first. Hopefully you'll build up enough to be able to hit that 75% from your vest and knee pads, rolling armor, your gloves, holster, mask, and whatever you have left on your backpack with a regular roll, because the backpack is really the basic setup of this that you're going to need. Now with you rolling armor and stamina on everything, where are the electronics coming from? Well, we need to get this to the high skill power. So where is that coming from? Well, first we must get it from the backpack. If you rolled armor on this, don't worry, because we can recalibrate into skill power. You can re-roll your armor into skill power because it's the same major attribute, and your backpack has the highest available skill power of any of the gear. If you're looking at 268, you're looking at somewhere around 7,500 skill power that you can go ahead and recalibrate on this. You want to try and get the highest skill power roll you can. If you're lucky, you may be able to roll skill power on your knee pads as well, but you might not be that lucky. I fortunately have knee pads that I have a skill power major attribute built in that I got when I got my knee pads, and I already had armor on it, so I was able to just re-roll the stamina, and I had electronics on it. So I didn't really want that on it because all of my electronics really don't come from the actual points that I'm doing. They come from what I'm going to tell you and how to make this build. If you really want to make this build, you can add electronics to it. You can put, off stamina or something like that and really put it into a more balanced electronics stamina build. But right now, I'm just going to tell you how to do it without putting any points other than your base stats into stamina. We now have skill power on our backpack because we just re-rolled it. Electronics are already on the holster because you got 3 slots, and whole electronics is already on there. And possibly skill power on your knee pads. So if you do have skill power on your knee pads and backpack, both should already have a base of 10 to 11,000 skill power without any electronic points. So if you have skill power and it's pretty high, you should have somewhere around 5,000 on your knee pads, maybe 4,500 to 6,000, maybe 6,500. I actually re-rolled, got 7,500 on my backpack, so I was doing pretty well. So you should have somewhere around a base of about 11,000 to 12,000 already rolled without putting any points into anything. So that's a great start. And with your holster, if you have a 268 holster, you'll want your electronics to be a high number on this slot. If you have something that is like you have 720 in stamina, 730 in firearms, and a electronic slot that has like 650, you're going to want to re-roll the electronic slot or something like that to try and get it as close to that 750 number as possible. And luckily, when you recalibrate your electronic slot on a holster, it just gives you 3 numbers, and one of those numbers is going to be the high number, and hopefully it's not lower than the number that you have on it already, or else you're really screwed, and that sucks because you just wasted money. Now, the key piece you are building towards is a mixture of mods that you want to put on it. I roll a stamina mod with skill power for the most part. Almost every one of my mods has skill power on them. Maybe one doesn't. I think I have health on one of my mods, but really I will end up switching that out for skill power. I'm just adding to my toughness, and they will, help you get to that tank build as high as possible, but you really want the skill power to come from your mods and being able to add skill power. There are 5 mod slots available after 1.3, and they're all basic, and you can put a mixture of them depending on what you want your build to be from here. My mods right now are 4 stamina and 1 firearms, and one of my stamina has health on it, so not a biggie. The rest have skill power on them ranging from 13 to 1600. That's a rounded number, which is the highest I've seen. 1600 is really the highest I've seen. I think I have 16,000 or 1650 something electronics on it, skill power. And with these mods, you're looking at an increase to your electronics in the neighborhood of an additional 55 to 6,000 skill power. So if I have 11 to 12,000 on my backpack and my knee pads just from the perks from the major attributes, and then another 6,000, you're already looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 18, 19,000 skill power. Skill power is basically you get 10 points per point in electronics. So as you can see with me, my base is 1255 or 12,550 electronics points, skill power, whatever you want to call it. Add that to the 6,000 that I get off my mods and the 11,000 from my backpack and knee pads, and you're starting to build up a pretty good tactician base for what your skill power could be. If you want a bit more, I would recommend taking off some DPS and adding electronics to it, but not taking the toughness off, because our goal here is to make a tanktician, not a DPS balanced tanktician. So taking DPS really doesn't affect you that much. When they redid the AUG and I lost 40,000 DPS just off 10%, I lost basically like 3,000 or 4,000 damage per bullet, and that's not a whole lot. I mean, it could be like when you're fighting players, it's only going to be like a couple hundred. This is, fighting enemies, and it's only, 3,000 or 4,000. So it's pretty good. That's really where you want to be. And so losing that DPS really isn't going to hurt you as much as losing that toughness you want, because you're building on your stamina and health, and you're not really building on the armor, because you should have 75% armor, and you really want to build the health right after that and get as much of it as possible, because that's what's going to sustain you. That's what's going to keep you alive during all of these. And as you can see from some of the fights that I'm showing you right now that I did after I built this, like, I can take a fair amount of bullets without doing really any damage to it. Now, I don't have a final measure chest piece or 2 pieces of final measure equipment, which you should have, because really that mitigates a lot of the sticky bomb damage as well, because it's exotic damage and not actual damage from that like you would for a gun or something like that. So that is really where you want to be. So it sounds like a lot of information, but in the long run, you'll make it up over time, and the DPS really isn't that big of a deal to go ahead and take and remove. Now, you don't need the best gear in the game with this, and I would encourage you to play around with it. You'll find more unique ways of building this. One of the many perks is that there's a gloves perk that gives your DPS and stamina and adds it to skill power. So it takes 12% of your DPS number and your stamina number and adds that to skill power, which can really boost it up a lot. It doesn't take it away from DPS or stamina, opponent, it just takes those numbers and adds it over to skill power. It's a huge boost, so if you can really take and get a yellow piece of gear and find that, that'll really help you out. Now, there's also going and using the Tactician 2-piece for an additional 4,000 skill power. As you can see, I have 30,000, I'd have 34,000. It's not a huge jump, but it would be good. If you run the 4 pieces, you can really get your skill power past the max with the 4 pieces Tactician set. It's pretty easy to do, and you can oftentimes get it there by yourself if you're really good at killing enemies. However, it is easier in a group, and you'll notice the increase in the skill power right away if you are in a group, because the skill power goes up so much faster when 3 people are shooting and adding to that skill power. So, like always, these builds are the basics for helping you build your own. I know I didn't go into like a lot of the formulas that I did with the tank build, but this is really just another video adding on to that build. So if you haven't gone and seen it, go to Gun Brothers Gaming and see that video, or check it out, in the last video that I just did. I have built these over many months, and I've tried various styles before settling on one. In fact, you can see the differences in my builds from yesterday's video, from the tank video, to this video here, because I swapped things around, and I didn't even change gears. I just swapped some things around, just checking it out, taking some advice from some people that left comments, like swapping out and adding skill power to my backpack as opposed to armor, and swapping stats around. And it's key to finding a great fit for your playstyle. That's really what it is. If you're not gonna be a great skill power player, I would go ahead and say, hey, you need to avoid this. Try a DPS build, which I'll be doing more of these in the future. I want to really help you get your playstyle down before you actually go ahead. But this is the meta, and this is what everybody's using, so I want to make sure that people are aware of it, people know how to build it, people know how to reiterate on it and get it good. It's why I use an alt too, so that I can go around and build these and test them in the dark zone. I use my alt for a lot of these, go into the dark zone and test out these new builds to see how they do, because if I die in the dark zone with my alt, I don't really care, because it's it's just a throwaway character that I use this for. And so you can just go ahead and test it out. You can go rogue, you can go kill rogues, you can go do whatever you want, and you can find the best meta that you want for yourself, because that's really something that's going to be more towards getting your playstyle down, as opposed to getting somebody else's playstyle down and running a build that you're not really comfortable with. With the Tacticians, you really only want to run it for PvP though. It's really going to be great in the dark zone, and it's mainly a PvP build, since running against NPC players, things like sticky bombs are fairly useless when the sticky bomb damage maxes out at 250,000 and the NPC has 2 million hit points. And tons of armor. It's not really going to do a whole lot of good. It's great for being a dedicated healer, because your skills go up really fast. I would suggest, if you're running this build, get the Caduceus, because it has a lot of perks that really lend itself to helping you get your skills back fairly fast. And so it's a good start, but it's fairly a support character in PvE, and PvP is something that you can go around and really go and get your money's worth out of it, because it does a lot more damage to enemy players than it does to NPCs. So that's really what I'm trying to get across here, is that you really need something that fits your playstyle, and I hope that this video has helped you. So thanks again for watching. That's been my time. I am Mounty Carl. If you found this video helpful, please drop a like on it, and go watch our previous video. It's there to help you out and get you going, and hopefully get you over that hump of what you're missing for building a tank build. And this video here will just go into that and really add to the Tanktician side of things, and adding skill power to a build like that, and kind of leaving the DPS behind. So with my DPS, I could actually take and drop that down even more and add it to my toughness, or add it to my skill power, depending on what kind of playstyle I want. Do I want to stand there and be a bullet sponge, or do I want to go ahead and sticky bomb people and wreck them? That's really the thing that I need to ask myself with this build. What are my plans? What are my goals? What am I going to do? And I know it's a lot of overthinking, but it's something that you need to do before you go ahead and start building this thing out. You want to make sure that you want to ruin a build before you go into it, because you're going to end up ruining a lot of DPS and stuff that you might have worked for that you want, and if you regret this playstyle, you're going to want to just go back to the old one, and it's going to cost you a lot of money, and it's going to cost you a lot of regret. I would go ahead and just test this out first, see if it's something that you want, do it all, do it with some 214 pieces, see how it works, and then come back and then do it for real. So anyways, I'm Mounty Carl, and for everyone here at Gun Brothers Gaming, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon in the underground. Agent out.